Kyle Siegel, welcome back to Second Nature, our returning champion here.
How's it going, guys? Happy to be here.
The last time we spoke to you on this podcast, you were overseas manufacturing, I think, the first round of the belt. Is that right?
Yeah, it's crazy that was just like a little over a year ago.
You know what's crazy is that I wasn't even on the original episode, and I remember listening to it while I was driving from California to Colorado between Western States and Hard Rock. And just being so inspired. The thing I remember most from the first episode was Kyle talking about how he had leveraged the business against his house and, basically had painted himself into a corner of like, Raide needs to work. Otherwise, maybe it takes down the whole enterprise, meaning your life with it. And just being very inspired by the commitment. And now we've gotten to know each other. Kyle, huge admirer of you personally and what you've built with Raide. Excited to catch up on what the last 12 months have been like. And we should say, my first ever investment into a private company, an infinitesimal, insignificant amount in the grand scheme of things, but I believe a lot in what you're doing. And, I had an opportunity to put my money where my mouth was, and I appreciate that opportunity. So Kyle, excited to catch up, buddy.
Yeah, likewise. And again, so just like honored that you believe in me enough to invest. And I'm here recording from my house, so I haven't lost my house yet, which I'm very happy about. And had to double down on that.
All right. Well, it's hard to know where to jump in. Also, what we're going to do today is share a little bit of news about what the future looks like and how things are changing in real time with Raide. You're also in the midst of like a big product launch, multiple products, in fact, all at the same time. So we'll talk about that. But maybe let's just start with like a broad 30,000 foot view of the last 12 months. Like since the last time you were on the podcast, what are some of the most important moments that have transpired for the brand?
I think so. Last time we spoke, I was basically a ski brand. Hoping to become a skiing and running brand, which was always the goal. And we had a couple ski products. We launched the running belt, and I think I launched that belt knowing it really solved a problem for myself as a runner. Hoped that a lot of people resonated with that. But at the same time, to make that and solve that problem is a lot more expensive than other belts on the market. So it's very much like I'm taking a flyer. Will this land? And yeah, definitely the highlight of the past year has just been how many people have enjoyed using that product and the commercial success that enjoyment has led to. And us getting the belt in people's hands has just been so hard, like keeping it in stock, distributing it internationally, and all the different opportunities that has led to has been amazing. Seeing it on athletes at some of the biggest races in the world, like Western States, but also just like seeing people using it on the trail, myself in Colorado, has just been like the most insane thing over the past year. I think we I don't know, did 2 or 3 times. We've sold like a couple times more than I ever expected, which has just been like so fun. So all good problems, but like it's been a really challenging year. And yeah, that's for sure been the main highlight, is just keeping up with the growth of the running belt.
It's crazy to me that when we first interviewed you, I mean, the pack, the ski pack that you originally came out with was like, revered, maybe is the right word. Like it won awards. People were pumped on it. It solved a problem. It did this thing. And I think even when I was interviewing you, I thought that I was interviewing, somebody running a snow brand. And now you have, equal or greater success in the trail running world. How does having success in sort of 2 different, vastly different categories sort of shake up how you maybe think about Raide? Or did it always kind of feel like it was going to be like this?
It was definitely the goal. Like when I started Raid, I was like, there are 3 products that I feel like a burning desire to make. And it was like the ski pack, the running belt, and the hybrid ski touring bibs that we released last season. Um, and it's definitely hard to like balance two sports from a marketing perspective, but to me, they're like the products are very similar in that they solve a problem for athletes, and that's what Raid is all about. And so, driving that message home, like regardless of what sport we're in, is marketing Raid. And I think for us, we're just very like staying product focused, and um, but it is definitely a challenge. It'll continue to be a challenge balancing both. Um, but it's cool because, like all of these like heritage big brands like the North Face and Patagonia and Arc'teryx, they make multiple sports of product, and in the kind of like modern world, you don't see that very much anymore. You see these a lot of amazing and really successful companies stick to one sport. Um, so there's not really like a playbook or like a founder that I can call up and be like, how have you managed growing in two categories? So we're just kind of figuring it out as we go.
It's really interesting. So what you're saying, which we've talked about on the pod a bunch of times, is like the fragmentation of everything, right? And so running brands that have started in the last 5 years are usually specifically running brands. And you are taking more of the North Face or Arc'teryx approach of being a 4-season outdoor mountain brand that, of course, makes products for different sports based on the fact that it's about movement in the mountains. But I guess specifically moving away from this trend of nicheification, right? And just like, I don't know, to me, it makes it pretty exciting in terms of just like not only the potential for the business and its size in the future, but it also probably introduces, like you said, marketing challenges. How have you gone about like speaking to these different consumers, or have you learned that there is more overlap than maybe you expected between the snow sports crowd and the summer sports crowd?
There's a decent amount of overlap in our customer between both. I'd say we've this will be like really the first winter where we have to talk about where we actually have enough product in stock in both categories. So far, we've actually just been like most of last winter, we were out of stock of the running belt. And so we put our focus on the winter product. And then this past summer, obviously people aren't skiing, but we also have been out of stock of most of the ski product. So it's kind of something we'll have to figure out. You see a lot of brands making different Instagram accounts for different categories. It's something I'd actually like to avoid because I just like would like to talk, like have Raid a centralized place to like for customers to hear about Raid, learn about Raid, stay up to date with Raid, whether it's regardless of category. Um, I think one interesting business consideration I'll bring up. I mean, we're in running and skiing because like that's the sport. Those are the sports I do and like the product I want to make. But for us to like have a successful business building the highest end product, we kind of have to be in two categories. Like it would be very hard to have a business just in skiing making really high end packs and outerwear. Um, and having both, like having the ski business has really helped us like with the run business because when we launched the running belt, we had a bunch of ski retailers that picked up the running belt, and then vice versa. Like the running business and having that year round revenue really helps us take risks on ski product and risks on marketing the skiing. So I think if we didn't have both of them, there maybe would be a reality that we had to make some products that were less high end, more mass market. So it's really cool to have both, and they fit together really well.
I feel like from the outside, people have been paying attention to Raid. People have been seeing it grow. New products have been released. I'd love to hear from you what has sort of surprised you, or what people may not actually understand about the struggles of actually growing the brand and the business. Like, what's behind the scenes been the biggest struggle for you?
I think I learned like scaling was is just like really, really hard. And maybe not my number one strength for sure. Um, we actually, we just launched some products last week. That was our first product launch in about a year. Um, and that was because it's just been me trying to keep up with the demand of the current products and the growth. Then I haven't been able to focus on the product as much. Or I'm still focusing a ton on the product, but I haven't been able to get it out to market as soon as I wanted. Like I wanted to release our shorts a month or two earlier. Um, and like November, a couple of months after we recorded the first podcast was really tough. Um, because we doubled our ski business. And I didn't before that think to myself, okay, like if we double our ski business, that's like going to be double the customer support, double all the shipping issues. And then we actually launched pre-order again. So we shipped like the entire volume of our first winter season of packs in about 2 weeks in our second winter season. So we took all of our shipping issues that we might have had the first winter and condensed them into about a month the second winter. And that's just like, stuff not getting delivered, getting lost in the mail, people stuff getting stolen in the mail, stuff like that. That's like actually really time consuming. And I didn't take a second before we launched to like think that that was going to happen. And so I was kind of like, still a one man show at that point, doing all the customer support, and but it had like 4x, and I got pretty rocked by it. Um, and yeah, that just taught me a good lesson of like scaling is hard. And I actually recently heard someone say like 2x is harder than 10x because 2x you kind of just hold on for dear life and grind through it, but 10x you just can't. So you figure out ways to actually scale your business and make things more efficient. So we were like squarely in that 2x camp where I was just like not being like, okay, let me have time to zoom out, hire a customer support team, all of that. But kind of after we got through that, a lot of my time has been more now like, how do we 10x? How do we actually make the business more efficient rather that, and so like the business can scale without me having to scale the time because I don't have any more time. So I can't scale my time.
Yeah. So other people have to pick up the slack, which we'll
Yeah.
get to in a bit. Kyle, you and I catch up on the phone fairly regularly, and you said something to me recently that I think would be fun here. That you were like, "What's going on in Korea? Do you know anything about Korea?" And I was like, "No, I don't really know anything." And you're like, "I'm kind of debating dropping everything right now and just focusing on the Korean market." Share a bit about that with the audience.
Yeah, I think one of the most surprising things since starting Raid is just like um, seeing people order our products from all over the world. We've shipped products direct to consumer to 40 countries and like Antarctica and like Kazakhstan and we're in retail stores in 15 countries. And I did not expect that. My standpoint was like when I launched was like, if people are willing to pay for the shipping and the import fees, like I'd love to get my product to whoever wants it. In reality, that has a lot of really like crazy operational problems when you start to mature as a business that we've been working through over the past 6 months. Um, but one of those, an example of like this happening was a retail store reached out to us in Seoul, and we shipped them product and they sold out in a day. And then we shipped them product again and they sold out of that product in a day. And we've done no paid marketing outside of the US since starting the business. So all this traction we're getting internationally is organic, and I think just speaks to the fact that people just want product that solve problems for them and like are actually um, present like a function and performance benefit over other products on the market. And we posted like an Instagram post the other day. Our number two city of our viewers was Seoul, and so I still haven't like quite figured out what is going on because we still haven't done marketing. But I think it just speaks to the influence that retail stores have in their communities, and especially running, because like I don't think I can take credit for us really growing in Seoul. Like I think a lot of the credit goes to this retail store that we're in. Um, and so I still need to go there before the end of the year and kind of like meet the guy who runs the store and like see more of the scene. Um, but then a lot of like operational things also need to happen in lockstep so that if we grow that demand, we can actually service the demand.
Fascinating. And isn't it so funny? Like you see these things pop up when in South Korea where you wouldn't have thought twice about it, but then yeah, there's a community there that locks in on it, and I feel like it's so easy for us to just get invested in our own zone and trying to speak to the people that are around us. But there are so many other places that love the things that we love, like in distant corners of the world, and it's so fascinating when you actually see it break through. Have there been any other like kind of hot spots besides South Korea that you've noticed pop up?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do well in like all of the mountain countries in Europe. And then the UK, in UK, the running scene is just insane. Um, there's a number of just like incredibly cool stores. I'll shout out Interval in Edinburgh. Um, they picked us up early and they have just been incredible to work with, um, and have an amazing community around their store. Um, and that's been really cool to see. And I'm very thankful like we're in an industry that like retail is thriving. Obviously, like everyone's always like quite bearish on retail, but I'm super bullish, and it's just cool that people still want to connect in person. People obviously want a lot of community, and retail stores are the hub of that, at least in running. Um, and it's cool that we can be a part of it. And I think in our first conversation, Aaron, we spoke a lot about like I think we spoke about like product led growth versus marketing led growth versus sales led growth. And I think the internationalization of Raid really speaks to like what a product led brand looks like. The fact that we can be in these other countries, we're getting pulled into these other countries. We're not pushing ourselves into these other countries. Um, and that's just been really cool.
That's a really interesting insight because I know when we had you on stage at TrailCon for the panel of I think it was the Challenger Brands panel, that was one of the things that we were talking about of like marketing led versus product led, and the different ways that you kind of lead forward. And I think when it comes to other countries that maybe don't speak English as their first language, like the product uh, the technology or the stuff that builds into the product is the stuff that gets translated the fastest. It's not about like a flashy cool tagline. It's about product that works really really well, and that sort of is universal in a way. And so it's just kind of fun to take a step back and look at like where this is resonating outside of the US and Canada and stuff like that.
And then now we have the problem of like, okay, so these retail stores are being really great about recognizing great product, bringing it in so that they can share it with their customer base. But then now we have the problem of like, okay, we have to make sure those stores are successful and make sure that they sell out of the product they bring in. And it's not just like a one-way street where like we ship them product and then they have all of the burden of selling it. So that's something that will be like a big focus over the next year.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's get more specific about the product led growth and then come back to the pros and cons of growing at a rapid clip. You're just in the midst of launching the Trail Tech system, something that's very exciting and innovative. It feels like Raid. It feels like the natural next step. So how does the Trail Tech system, maybe explain kind of what the product is, what the products, the collection of products are, and how it fits into this idea of being product led?
So the Trail Tech system is 6 products. It's 2 running belts, a running short, and then 3 flasks, 3 soft flasks. Um, and they're all made to work together so that you can use each product in the system as like a tool to have enough like carrying capacity for the hydration and nutrition you want to bring for whatever length run you're going on. Um, all sort of with the goal of uh, enabling people to have more freedom and flow when they're running. So for me, like if your stuff is bouncing around, constricting your breathing, making you hot, those are all distractions that like really take away from your experience when you're running. And so that was like the initial goal with our LF 2 liter running belt, which is like let's create something that limits those distractions and like helps people focus on the task at hand. So these are further extensions of that mission, which is like I up until developing the Trail Tech short, I was even on runs where I was just bringing my cell phone, I would bring a running belt. And so I really felt like, and I had tried a lot of different shorts on the market, and I still felt like nothing was really meeting my expectations. When I would put my phone in that short, it would distract me from my run. And I wanted to create a product where I felt like I could carry my phone and not have it distract me from my run and carry more than a phone. Um, and then you have the converse of that, which is like for short runs, bringing the LF 2 liter um, also was distracting me from my run because it was just more than I needed for like a 5 mile short road run around my neighborhood. So I wanted to develop a lighter weight belt that would also, like carry what I needed for sort of that short to medium size training run that you often kind of only have time for during the week and when you can't get out for a longer run and um, just as you didn't need our LF 2 liter. So those are kind of like the problems that I was trying to solve with two with the short and the lighter weight running belt that we released last week. Um, so it was all with that mission and they all work together. So the pockets on the shorts are in the what I think is the most biomechanically efficient place to put a pocket on a short. Um, and they're made to not bounce. And then the openings of those pockets sit lower down on the waistband so that when you put a belt on top of it, it doesn't cover the pockets. And then we have the flask sizes so that you can mix and match different flasks to maximize the space you have. Because, for example, it's kind of if you put a 650 milliliter flask in the front of our running belt, you're not going to be able to fit your phone. So we have a 360 milliliter flask that fits in the short, but also fits perfectly in the front of the running belt. So you can also put your phone in the front. So now you have all these tools to mix and match for a short run, medium run, long run. And not wear a vest.
I would encourage people to go check this out on the website where you have like the TT01, TT02, TT03, which basically shows based on the size of the adventure that you're going on. Obviously, you need different tools for each one of those outings. And now you can mix and match in a way that really does feel elegant, but also technical and cool and strategically necessary that would enhance the experience of the user. And I think just to drive one point home, like you could look at this and be like, oh, Ray just launched a running short. But what to me says product led growth is like something that's different, right? You mentioned the pocket for your phone or whatever, but also at least from my memory or from my experience, it's the first short that comes with a soft flask included, and with a pocket that's specifically designed to incorporate a soft flask, so you can go out for, if you're just going to bring the shorts and the soft flasks, you've got plenty of water to be out for, up to probably a couple of hours. You probably come home a little thirsty, but then if you're going a little bit longer, then you step up to the, put the lighter weight belt on. And then if you're going super long, put the heavier belt on that people have come to know and love. And so anyway, I just think it's really interesting, and really is like the product is differentiated, and that to me is what product led growth is.
I'd be so curious to understand how you think about sort of moving forward on product led growth, because part of me thinks about like completing the kit, but like you also don't want to manufacture a problem and be like, I don't know, like what about a top? Like why wouldn't you have a top? But then if you have this lens of product led growth, like are you held back from making a top because you can't find a problem to solve? Do you understand like where I'm?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I think about a lot and I've struggled with since growing Raid because when I started Raid, I was very much like, we will only do technical product and we will only release it if it's the absolute best product on the market. And if it's not there, I'm just not going to do it. And that, I think what I'm really proud of is to date, if you took any of our products away from me, it would severely impact my enjoyment of running or skiing. And and they solve problems and like, but I think it presents quite a challenge when you get into like a running t-shirt and a running tank. And there are things that we have planned that I think are quite innovative in the top space. Um, but we can make a running top that is as good as some of the best products on the market. It doesn't have to be better than some of the other brands that are absolutely nailing running apparel, but still make someone feel really great, whether it's the color, just having something that matches the short, um, being a part of Raid as a community. And I think that makes it still worth doing. However, it's important for me that we really stand behind the products that are really differentiated and the best on the market. And that's the reason why we're launching like a short and we don't have a shirt right now is, the shirt can come later, but for me, it can become confusing to a customer when you have this whole assortment and it's like you go online, it's like, what do I pick? There are 10 shorts here. Why does this? And I as a customer, I often find myself just being like, I'm going to sort it most expensive to least expensive, and I'm only going to look at the most expensive thing because that's probably what the company thinks is the best. And for Raid, like, I don't think we're ever going to have like a price tiering thing. Like, we're never going to be like, this is our best product and here's a worse product. Like, everything
Yeah.
will be our attempt to create the best product in that category. And we will never have like a secondary product to that. We all have different versions of that. But to me, it's really important that we put our best foot forward in that category and with acknowledging that, it doesn't always have to be, it should be the best, but it doesn't have to be singularly the best.
It's a really interesting and again a differentiated approach. And the same was true when you launched the bib in snow, right? Like you
Mhm.
didn't launch a jacket at the same
Yeah,
time. It's the same
yeah.
thing now with the short without the tee. And yeah, there is opportunity in the future to add those things. And yeah, it's hard to go to market and be like, well, this is the best running shirt ever invented, unless there's some new innovation, like, ACG's t-shirt that Caleb Olson was wearing at Western States. Like that, it feels like product led, right?
Very-
Innovation. But, for you, it's like, assuming you aren't on the precipice of some breakthrough like that, the enhancement is, yeah, the color, the fit, how it makes you feel, how it fits, with your personal style and things like that. And there's definitely room for Raid to grow in that respect too.
I'll also just quickly add on that subject, which is like when you're a brand of our size, you don't have unlimited cash. You have a finite amount of cash. And so if you if we were to drop a shirt and a t-shirt, some of our money would be going towards the inventory of the t-shirt. So then it's like I want all of our money to stand behind what we think is the hero product. And there as we grow, we'll have the money to bring in both. But right now it's like where I want to put our investment is in these products like the Trail Tech Short and the UL 1 liter belt that I think are extremely differentiated. And then the other stuff can come later.
Yeah. Okay, so you are a Four Seasons brand and you're moving towards also being a head to toe brand, not just an accessories brand. Talk about the pros and cons of that, the trade offs inherent, and sort of
Yeah.
positioning yourself more competitively against some of the incumbents.
Yeah. I mean, growing the assortment's really hard. You have to talk about multiple products at once, which is much more challenging than having one product that you can always just like hammer the messaging for. Um, and yeah, one of the main challenges like growing the assortment into new categories is on the athlete sponsorship side. Um, a big um, a big part of my strategy with Raid and building product that I think is the best and high performing is that, you know, I wanted to have athletes to showcase that product. And I think a byproduct that speaks to our success in that mission is a lot of athletes reach out to us wanting to use our product. Um, but there are interesting dynamics where, especially in running and in skiing, like an athlete will prioritize a shoe or footwear sponsorship, or in the case of skiing, um, maybe it's a ski boot sponsorship or just like a bigger a brand sponsorship. And the footwear sponsors in running often make their athletes wear their product head to toe. Um, when we just had a running belt, it's very easy for us to still work with athletes and just sponsor them in accessories. Um, and we're not in conflict with their footwear and apparel sponsor. And then now that we're getting into apparel, we have to navigate more sponsorship conflicts. And, you know, a lot of brands, they might say, like, we'll only bring on athletes that are head to toe. I think we're still going to work with athletes, some athletes that are just representing Raid for accessories, um, and some athletes that might just be doing apparel, and then some athletes that are head to toe. Um, because I just want to work with the athletes that are like the right fit for our brand. But it's certainly challenging and like narrows the scope. And then it's also challenging for us because say we want to do a marketing shoot with an athlete that just is on our accessories program, then now we're kind of advertising another brand's apparel. Um, so that's been something that I'm figuring out kind of on the fly here. And we're actively really trying to grow the team, especially with athletes head to toe. And um, it's really fun though. It's exciting.
It's interesting looking at your roster too. On the snow side of things, you've got snow athletes and then snow guides. And I've got to imagine that that conversation, you know, with a guide is probably slightly easier because they have this level of credibility, they have this level of visibility, but they maybe aren't navigating those same levels of, you know, head to toe sponsorship conflicts and stuff like that. I wonder if there's also opportunities like that in the running space as well, where you can find these people that aren't navigating those conflicts, but probably have just as much value when it comes to, you know, introducing people to the different products that you have.
It's like kind of strategy on bringing on guides, ambassadors, influencers, and athletes. Uh, and I use influencers and athletes separately for a reason. Um, is a whole podcast in itself. And there's lots of learnings that I had and ways that I look at bringing on different people representing Raid on the internet and where they bring value. Some bring value by wearing your product on a podium, some through a reel on Instagram, some through the community, and some through the content that they give you. And you kind of have to do it all and kind of have this build this complete team that's kind of providing value in all of those different domains. Um, but there are, and then you can get people that have 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, up to hundreds of thousands of followers, and um, yeah, so it's kind of like you just kind of got to really be in the community. I think is the most important thing, like following races, being at events, seeing who has influence, and finding them early before the big brands get to them is a lot of the game as well. Um, and yeah, definitely working on it.
Awesome. Well, we got to bring in our special guest here in a second, but I'd love to also talk to you about fundraising. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
better to touch that now before we bring the special guest
we
on,
can touch
but
that now. We never,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Let's touch on that because, you know, part of your growth and like part of the one of the problems that it introduces in this rapid acceleration is how do you fund it, right? Like clearly the market is asking you for more of your product, but it's not necessarily straightforward into how you fund the manufacturing, which I'm sure is hugely expensive for you. So yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear how you're thinking about fundraising at this point, and you know what the right investors look like to you, because I know you have options. And yeah, I don't know, whatever that would be valuable that you've learned as a founder in this early stage about how to properly set your business up for success while also maintaining ownership and decision making power.
I think the game with fundraising is like you always want to retain as much ownership of your company as possible. You also don't want to slow the growth of your company too much, um, and not be able to capitalize on momentum. Um, but there are realities of like uh, being in the category we're in. Whereas, like, if you're a technology company and you think you have a high likelihood of having a billion-dollar plus exit, um, you can raise money in a you can give up more ownership, raise money to try to grow faster, and if you end up selling your company with 20% ownership, but you sell for $1 billion plus, it's still a great outcome for the founder. For Raid and for the category we're in, you do not see billion-dollar plus acquisitions very often. There are billion-dollar plus companies. I think the one I look to the most as of late is On Running. But for me, it's all about like preserving optionality. Like I don't want to be in a point where if we don't exit for over $1 billion, like I'm unhappy or don't find that this was worth my time. I want us to be able to like act on our mission, which is like make the best product that uh, enhances the freedom and flow of human powered movement, and whatever kind of like revenue that gets us to, I want to be happy with that, and I want all the investors of Raid to be happy with that. I don't want us to be forced into having to build mass market product and sell out per se. Um, so the way that materializes in fundraising is us raising from partners that understand that it takes a long time to grow the brand, um, are fully bought in on the positioning and mission, and not raising too much money that it keeps us from having successful and happy outcome for everyone. Um, at whatever step of the journey we start to maybe hit diminishing returns on our time and capital. Um, and so we've raised a little bit of capital. I think a very small amount of capital relative to what you see from other brands. We have decided to grow a little bit slower, um, to enable that, but not slow things down too much. But um, you know, making decisions like not launching a T-shirt with our short, and so that I can have this goal of retaining optionality. And yeah, that's kind of the overview and how I think about it so far.
I'd be really curious to understand also those conversations because I think, you mentioned Silicon Valley investing. I think a lot of those investments come with the expectation of a big financial exit where you sell it off or get acquired or IPO or whatever. And it seems like, listening to you, it seems like you're kind of trying to plan for the long game and like make this a company that sustains and is just a profitable company that makes really good, advanced technology stuff for all the different sports that you care about. And so it's not necessarily in service of an exit. It's about like building this sustainable thing that's going to produce returns, no doubt, but not be like this windfall that everybody's going to get. And I feel like that mentality going into it's got to be a different conversation when you're talking to investors and finding the right investors. Does that track? Does that feel right, or am I way off?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, like my dream with Raid is to just build it to a point where we have the resources to do any product project that I want. So like for example, like I just found out about this crazy duck farm in Iceland that makes the best down in the world, and like I want to have the resources to like start our own duck farm or buy that duck farm. And just do projects like that are in line with our mission. And I think my whole strategy is like if we do that and we continue making the best stuff, like we'll be commercially successful and investors will be happy. But not everyone agrees with that, and it's about having those conversations up front and finding investors that get it, like Debo, and you know understanding that, doing that, and having a positive financial outcome for the people involved are not two mutually exclusive things.
Dude, let's get the duck farm going. Yeah, I don't know. Speaking from my perspective, obviously, I've been an admirer of what Kyle's doing, but really when I ended up sort of calling him up and being like, hey, I want to get involved was after our races. So we have 2 races that happen over the course of 3 weeks, one here in Northern California and one up outside of Portland, Oregon. And it was after that second one, Gorge Waterfalls, where it was like, in the last 3 weeks, I've seen more people at my own events using Kyle's product than like really anything else out there. Cause I'm always looking at like what people are using. And there were so many of Kyle's running belts out on the race course. And I was like, man, I really love what he's doing. I love the look and feel of it. I use the product myself. Maybe this is an opportunity for me to do something that I've never done before. And yeah, again, put my money where my mouth is, or just like follow this instinct that there's something here and use it as an opportunity to, sort of jump onto Kyle's rocket ship and see where it goes and learn a little bit along the way. But like, I didn't look at any of your financials. I didn't care about the valuation. I just said, all right, hey, this is a total flyer. I'm excited about what you're doing and I'm excited to learn myself and just sort of see where it goes. And certainly, long-term mindset, that type of thing. So both our attitude orientations made for, something that worked out for both of us.
Little did you know that you were buying a duck farm in Iceland with that money.
Can't wait. And of course, just like, every probably people who do this professionally feels like, a month later, I was like, damn it, I should have put more money in. But, the great thing is that it's not going to matter. Like, hopefully I can add value for Kyle in certain ways, and certainly like my money's not going to matter to Kyle. And, if Raide goes to the moon, it'll be great for me. But, also if it goes to 0, which I don't anticipate, it's, we're also not betting the farm in either direction. But yeah, again, just really inspired by what you've done, Kyle, and excited to have the opportunity to partner with you a little bit. So anyway, we should bring in our special guest here. Part of our conversation here is about the future of Raide and about helping you scale. And, obviously we've learned that we can't do everything, and scaling yourself is probably the hardest thing to do. And so bringing on other great, competent people is the name of the game. Enter our special guest here, previous Second Nature guest, Spencer Harkins. Welcome to Raide.
Grab your chair.
Yeah.
He forgot his chair.
Sorry, I'm new here.
All right, so just to set this up, we were talking about this earlier, but you guys have 2 of our most popular episodes ever, and Spencer, yours was episode number 69. People got to go back and watch or listen to it. It was absolute comedic gold, and here you are taking the next step in your career. So welcome back to Second Nature. Maybe just get us started with how the conversations with Kyle began and what made this feel really exciting to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to see you guys again. And yeah, thanks to Kyle for giving me the opportunity. I'm really really psyched to be here. It's really fun. I mean, the long story, which I'll give because we're on a podcast, is Kyle actually reached out to my partner first, Mally Noyes, professional skier, ultra trail runner. You all should know who she is. And he wanted to get her on the athlete team. Naturally, I took that contact and ran with it, and forced Kyle to give me a backpack 2 years ago when he first started, and we've stayed in contact ever since. I've been using the backpacks kind of behind the scenes, doing some product testing, and then we'll get on the phone every once in a while and talk about marketing. And yeah, so we just kind of stayed in touch, and I've been a huge fan of the brand ever since then.
And I'll add, so yeah, I got intro to Spencer through that way, just like a bunch of Instagram DMs and text messages, and kind of, about a year ago was like, I know I'm gonna need to make a marketing hire in the next 6 months, and tried to convince Spencer to join Raid like about a year ago. So it took a year to convince him. He was pretty happy with how things were going at his prior role, and the reason why I was really excited about Spencer is because he's such a high level skier and runner, while also having the experience of building what I think has shown up as a really differentiated brand in Pit Viper. Um, and I think that's a really unique set of skills that is really hard to find in the world. And it's really important to me that to have someone that is really in the mix on both sports and can speak authentically on both of the sports that we're in.
What a cool time to come in. I feel like Raid has sort of established itself as something like significant, but now, Spencer, you get to add your flair to the mix. I'm really curious. I mean, you just started not too long ago. What are the things that you're thinking about just like right out of the gates now that you're officially in the door and, kind of rolling up your sleeves?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing for me here is that it's such a product led brand, where the last brand I was at was really brand and marketing led. So it's really exciting to have this switch and have this product that we're just so excited to speak about. I always love product launch marketing, and product marketing in general. Brand marketing is fun too, but it's really exciting to kind of pivot and just have this incredible product to stand on, and just get to show that to the world and kind of learn that new skill as well. So I think that's the thing I'm most excited about, but mostly I'm just in the absorption period. I'm just trying to talk to as many people as I can and hear everyone else's opinions on it, and figure out what they want to say.
So, of course, a two-man brand, titles are insignificant, but you should come up with like a really perfect title for yourself, like King of Marketing or something, unless
Yeah.
you guys have already arrived at something. But
No,
I don't
we
know.
have a lot. Yeah, we have a more boring title than that, so we might have to rework it.
We could probably do it in initials, just HBM,
Yeah.
to go along with the current branding.
Sure.
All right. So I'd love to hear from both of you though. Like obviously this is very early days, like how the skill sets complement one another. Obviously like Kyle, you probably wouldn't bring Spencer on if you felt like he couldn't do certain things better than you.
Spencer is incredibly good at, I think he's going to be really good about pushing, like bringing just a completely different perspective and opinion on the way we do our messaging, and like just the creativity that we bring to the marketing. And he just offers like, I think he's going to be really good about pushing me out of my comfort zone, and kind of speaking about Raid in a different way. I think there's a number of different domains that makes him better than me at. He's like run an extremely successful email and text message program in his prior role, some incredibly cool like studio shoots, the packaging that he developed at Pit Viper is absolutely incredible. Retail displays. I think he did such a good job at Pit Viper of like building this brand that like manifests itself in such a differentiated way on every single touch point. And I think I've just been so focused on the product. And we like barely send any emails. Our retail displays are need a lot of work, so like I'm just excited about him to look at everything holistically and bring some of the unique flavor he brought from Pit Viper into the Raid ecosystem.
It feels like you have permission to sort of move in some new directions here, having Spencer on board and sort of the creativity that Spencer, you get to kind of bring to the table too, like the table is set in terms of product side of things, but it's still a bit of a blank slate on the actual marketing and brand side of things. I mean, do you have like a list of stuff that you're like right out of the gate? I want to add this and this and this. I mean, it's got to be sort of like a slow pivot into some of that stuff, but are there any like things that we should be paying attention to in the first like, I don't know, 6 months?
I'm really excited to extend our long format content. I think that's a big one. You guys know that. Here we are taking care of that right now. But honestly, I think I'm not coming into this with my playbook and saying, hey, here's what I want to do, here's what I've done in the past, and here's what's going to work. And something that I think is really understated about Raid is how good of a brain Kyle is at so many things. Like he has that engineering side and can develop these products that are like just unbelievable. But then he really has a vision for branding and marketing. He's kind of like two co-founders in one. So I really just want to absorb as much as I can from him because he's so opinionated and he has such like a vision on what that is. He's laughing because I said so opinionated. He's correct when he tells me to. It's awesome. So yeah, no, it's I'm still really much just sponging it up. I've been here for 9 days.
Yeah.
I think I'll at least say like what I want Spencer to say maybe, which is like I think which is like I mean we just want to tell like the story of our product like giving people the feeling that I want it to give, which is freedom and flow, like in different ways. Whether that's like long form YouTube, on podcasts, in like really cool product stories. We just want to share the story in ways that people actually enjoy spending their time watching and taking their attention really seriously, making sure we're not you know, taking your time for something that's meaningless. We want your attention on Raid to be something you take something away from. And so Spencer's main job is just to figure out how to do that.
So bring us into the team offsite. You guys are in Carbondale, Colorado at Kyle's house right now. Spencer, you live in Utah. I mean, practically, what is the collaboration going to look like? The workflow going to look like? And what is this team offsite practically looking like day to day right now?
Yeah. So I also got a shout out that I did bring on a fantastic head of ops over the summer named Bianca, who's also here, lives in San Francisco. So we're a remote team. And yeah, I mean, the offsite I think is a lot about like just alignment, and making sure we're all rowing in the right direction. Which I don't know, maybe sounds a little corporate there, but I think something that I heard Elon Musk say when I worked at SpaceX was like, if you have like two really strong forces, he used a science term and said vectors that are in the opposite direction, they cancel each other out. So like you obviously want to enable people to be really impactful, but if they're not impactful in the right direction, it's meaningless. So I think the main thing about us getting together is aligning our forces and direction.
Are you just incredibly relieved that you have a head of ops and marketing? Like you've got people now that are on the team and you don't have to do everything. Like you could, you're the founder. You could make a problem someone else's problem instead from now on. Like you must be stoked right now.
Yeah, really stoked. It's happening. It couldn't have happened any later. Would have loved it to happen a little bit earlier. I'm also dealing with the realities of how much more product work there is right now. Once you go from like one product to 5 products to 15 products, a lot more of my time needs to be spent on that and be in Asia. And something I really struggled with is managing the day to day of the business while having to travel for the business, specifically being in Asia or being at trade shows or events. So, having Spencer and Bianca for that is a game changer. And like, allows me to focus on product more, which is obviously extremely important.
I just want to say, to me, it feels right. It feels like a great partnership. I mean, Lutzi was the one who texted me about it. Apparently, he got Spencer's email. I'm not on the listserv, unfortunately, but you got to put me on there, Spencer. But I was like, wow, it makes perfect sense. Not only because, Spencer, you have experience both in ski and run. Obviously, you've been very successful in your career, but also you're not coming from the North Face or Nike or some giant brand. Like, you know what it takes to roll your sleeves up, to be creative, to be resourceful. And that's what Raide needs at this point, at least from my perspective. So
yeah, excellent hire, Kyle. Nice work.
good job.
Hey,
Very important thing. How much credit can Aaron and I take for this? Was there in some way, was there any connection made through Second Nature that brought this together? I mean, you are two of our favorite guests, so can we take any credit for this?
I would say you can take 100% of the credit.
Yes.
because I don't think I would have hired him without that BPC from the last.
Greatest BPC of all time.
Done deal.
Work, guys.
All right, perfect segue to our closing question here. Spencer, you have provided the best BPC ever, so you got to get us started.
I'm not going to be able to follow up with anything. I was trying to come up with something as I was sitting over there. I had 3 options. One's a camera, one's a glove, and one's an underwear. What do you want?
The underwear, obviously.
The underwear. So I've been on a major search for a replacement pair of underwear. Patagonia killed their, I can't remember what it's called, like everyday brief or something in the last year, which I have been living in for, 10 years. It's all I have. So finally I'm like, all right, I got to branch out. I got to find something new. So I've been trying lots of different brands. I've also gone to LinkedIn for this and made a post that did pretty well and got a lot of engagement. But I'm quite specific with my wants. I don't want the pouch. I want a material that's like natural and synthetic, but feels more natural. It must have a fly on the front. That's absolutely mandatory for me. It has to be a brand that I'm either like, I find aspirational, or so subtly branded that you wouldn't know what brand it is. There's like so many factors to it. So every time that somebody pitches me an underwear, I'm like, well, absolutely not, because that sucks. So with that, the underwear that I'm the most happy with right now is the Ex Officio Everyday Boxer. It's a rayon blend, so it's got that natural feel. I think Ex Officio is actually kind of a cool brand. Like, they're just like an underwear outdoor brand for the last few years. And then the boxer cut is actually way better than I thought. I haven't been in a boxer since I was probably 14 years old. But I have legs developed from many years of alpine skiing that are disproportionately huge around not the waist but below. Boxer cut's actually pretty sick. It's not riding up the way I thought it would. So I've tried briefs, tried lots of things, but right now the Ex Officio Everyday Boxer is my BPC.
If only there was a product development guru sitting right next to you.
Oh shit.
Yeah. He would only tackle that problem if he was confident he could create the greatest product on the market. But that was definitely the best analysis of undergarments I've ever heard in my life. Thank you for that contribution. Kyle, what'd you bring to share with the audience this week?
Yeah, I shouldn't have gone after Spencer, but I'll just go with what popped into my head we've been talking about just this morning, which is North Face launched their Advanced Mountain Kit yesterday, and something I worked on a little bit, but something that I didn't work on that I was really excited about is they put out this vest that's like almost like a running vest for mountaineering, is at least my interpretation of it. It's very different than anything I've seen on the market. I really applaud TNF for putting themselves out there on something like that. I'll caveat, I've not tried it. I've never seen it in person. But I just love seeing brands trying something super different. And that caught my attention.
Very cool. I'm looking at it on Instagram right now.
Yeah, we were looking at this at 1:30 a.m. last night. So maybe
Yeah.
our brains were a little foggy as we were coming up with it. But yeah, it's like a layering piece that you can store water bottles in to because like hydration is definitely an issue in
Yeah.
ski touring.
But it's not
Huh.
tight fitting. Like it's meant to go like over, down, puffy, and I guess just be kind of something to put like all the things you need to quickly access while you're ski touring or mountaineering, which I thought was just like a really interesting take on trying to solve a problem that you don't necessarily see all the time from TNF.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Lucy, you want to go next?
I've got a podcast. Colin and Samir is basically the creator, content creator version of Second Nature.
Yeah, they're the second nature of the content creator industry. Yeah.
I might be whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, they recently held an in-person event called Press Publish in New York City, and they had the Diary of a CEO host Stephen Bartlett on there. And this podcast is actually like really fascinating to listen to, even if you're not a content creator. But something that was really interesting was this guy has a failure team, and the team goes in and looks at stuff that like didn't go right, and then they adjust it accordingly to all that stuff. And it's just a fascinating approach to like, how you kind of go and look at stuff that works and how you look at stuff that doesn't work, and then adjust your approach accordingly. The fact that this guy's got a team dedicated to that is, I don't know, kind of fascinating. But there's a lot of really interesting insights. I've never actually listened to his podcast before, but listening to him speak was really interesting to kind of get the behind the scenes of how, I mean, I think that podcast's like number 2 or number 3 biggest podcast in the world right now. So
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. I've heard of it and I've heard of him, but never listened to it myself. And also have heard that it's like challenging Rogan right now for podcast supremacy before Second Nature takes over both, obviously. All right, I'll close this down here. This is not going to blow anybody's brain, but today is my wife's birthday, and the other day we were at this awesome, cool new boutique in Mill Valley called the Mill Valley Pasta Company, and I feel like this is going to be a huge business in the future. If you look it up on Instagram, it's very simple, but the founder is this funny guy who has made his career in kitchens. He's a chef by training, has worked at the biggest culinary institutions and also at some very important restaurants. And during COVID, he just started his own little pasta brand. First of all, product led. The pasta is dank, and they make a bunch of, like sauces and hot sauces and a bunch of like really delicious and I would say premium food products, but then also has a storefront where you can buy novel and interesting other brands, and usually like international brands like cheeses and wines and chocolates. And anyway, it's a great place to shop for gifts. I went in there yesterday to just get a couple of gifts for my wife, whose birthday is today, and had a chance to meet the founder. And it was really cool. And we just got to chit chat and just kind of like, share war stories, kind of two guys in the trenches. But I really think they're going to be big in the future. So Mill Valley Pasta Company is my BPC, millvalleypasta.com. And they abbreviate it to MVP Co., which I just love as a brand.
nice.
So anyway, we'll hopefully figure out a way to collab with them and some local thing in the future. But admiring what they're doing, and much in the same way that I admire what Kyle, Spencer, and Raide are doing, though in a very different realm. Boys, congratulations on everything. Thanks for coming back on the show. Spencer, welcome to the team. Let's do this every year. An update.
Let's do it. Thank you so much for having us on. It's just like an honor to have you guys both as fans of the brand and have the opportunity to talk about it with you both.
Yeah, already looking forward to next year's update. It's going to be it'll be fascinating to see where it continues to go.
Another year that feels like 5.